We're going to continue with today's festivities. Again, happy Juneteenth, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to the inaugural University Heights Juneteenth celebration. And today is all about freedom, and so much of that involves being able to express ourselves. So we're going to get ready for some spoken word from the incredible Belle Freeman. Raja, go ahead and take it away.
So the first poem I'm going to do, I wrote for my father. Today is not just Juneteenth, it's also Father's Day. Dad, raise your hand. So this poem is called Happy Father's Day. Once, on Father's Day, I made a box out of paper, then drew a picture of my father and trapped him inside. I told him as long as I loved him, he wouldn't be able to break free of it. Another time I made him a motorcycle out of wire with wheels that actually spun. Another year it was a flower made out of clay. There have been all these pictures, cards, craft projects. Some years it was just a Happy Father's Day text, but every single year I could never bring myself to write a poem. There's just too much to say. How do you tell your father that he's your voice of reason? The one in the back of your head keeping it on straight. How do you tell him that there's no way you would have made it without him? Do you think he knows that? How do you tell him that he taught you what it looks like to dream, to want a life for yourself? How do you tell him you see him, how hard he works, how much he loves you? How do you tell him you love him back? There's no card or picture or craft project or poem that could capture all you've done for me, Dad. So I say, Happy Father's Day. Thank you. My next poem is the one I wrote specifically for Juneteenth. It's called Water Cycles. History repeats itself like water. Water repeats itself like history. We learn in school that water holds on to a distant past, that we may be drinking the same water from decades or even centuries ago, meaning the water raining down on us today could be the same water that left so many people without a place to go after Katrina. Could be the same water in the rivers the Underground Railroad followed to freedom. The same water in the rivers the Negro speaks of. The same water we wash our curls in. Could be the same water we wade in, that God troubled. Could be the same water left rusted and undigestible in Flint's pipes. Could be the same water they found Emmett Till in. The water in the hoses they sprayed us with could be the same water that caught us when we jumped ship and held us tight until nothing hurt anymore and hid us where no one could find us again. This dirty water, this muddy water, this bloody water, guilty water, filthy water. Water repeats itself like history. History repeats itself like water. We learn in school that history holds on to a distant past. We're living the same history from decades or even centuries ago, meaning the history raining down on us today is the same history that left all those people without a place to go after Katrina. The same history in the rivers the Underground Railroad followed to freedom. The same history in the rivers the Negro speaks of. The same history we wash our curls in. The same history we wade in, that God troubled. The same history left rusted and undigestible in Flint's pipes. The same history they found Emmett Till in. The history in the hoses they sprayed us with is the same history that caught us when we jumped ship and held tight until nothing hurt anymore and hid us where no one could find us again. This dirty history, this muddy history, this bloody history, this guilty history, this filthy history. History repeats itself like water. Water repeats itself like history. Learning your history is just as important as drinking water. Thank you. So I don't usually take time when I'm on stage to just sort of talk about myself. I usually just kind of poem and then I run away. So I just want to say I'm also a poetry teacher. I'm a creative writing teacher. I draw a lot. I'm also on the board of South Euclid's Community Development Corporation. And I'm their youngest member. I'm 23, which is still, like, old. Like, I feel like 23 is a lot. That's over 2 decades. And I have a problem with that. Like, I can't be 23 yet because I'm entirely too young. Like, I feel like there's a checklist of things you have to do before 23, and based off that list, I'm probably like 17, maybe 16, which is probably why I have never, ever, not once in the history of everything ever, lost a game of never have I ever. I mean, I always win easy. Like a friend could say, never have I ever been drunk. And while most of the circle surrenders one of their fingers, overlapping it in defeat with other fingers laid down in rounds prior, I, with 10 fingers standing strong, laugh. I'm gonna win, and I know it, and I'm a sore winner, so I look at the circle, proud, and I say, never have I ever seen a pork chop. And most of the looks I get after that are just sad, but that's okay, because I win. The only game I can win for having such a clean slate, which is perfect because I never, ever have to worry about dirtying it up as long as I have this game. It's better this way, see, because if anything should happen to me, there'll be nothing to slander my name with, nothing to dig out the dirt. No dirt to dig into in the first place. I stay in line. I keep my head down. I keep my mouth shut. Because I know how far they'll go to stretch a story wide enough to cover themselves. To repurpose slight character flaws for a guilt-free narrative. Should I be gunned down tomorrow? May the news headlines paint me beautiful. Paint me truth. Paint me in full color, not just in black. Paint me human. May my shooter be villain in my narrative, not hero in their own. May the sound of their name be irrefutably disturbing. Should I be gunned down tomorrow, may you remember my words and know that I didn't deserve to die. Know that I lived each waking moment so deep in fear of bullets that I forgot how to sin. And as you hear my words in this moment, remind yourself that the price for one small mistake should never be death. Remind yourself that the price for not following orders should never, ever be death. Remind yourself that a child, yes, a child that makes one mistake does not deserve to be shot, and shot, and shot, and shot, and shot, and shot. Know that his mother, like every mother, did not deserve to see her son's corpse rotting in the middle of the street. He, like you and I, was human, and therefore made mistakes. He was 18, but I would trade him my chance to turn 23 if I could. Should I be gunned down tomorrow, know that I, like anyone would be, was scared. When they dig up my mistakes that I'm too afraid to admit I have made, remember this poem. Remember I stayed in line the best I could, kept my head down, my mouth shut. Know that I have never, ever lost a game of never have I ever. 10 fingers always pointed to the sky. This is a poem I wrote when I was, I want to say 18. This is called Hounds. Henry Watson, a former fugitive slave, recounts in his narrative, "There are men who do nothing else but hunt fugitive slaves with hounds. that are so well trained that they do, as they advertise, take slaves without scarring them enough to injure their value. But did you hear that last bit? Enough to injure their value. That part got to me, because they must have had some really good dog trainers for their time. If they could train a dog not to rip off nimble, cotton-picking fingers. And they could train a dog to know how much force is enough. And they could train a dog not to kill a man just because the future of a country is packed on his shoulders. It's funny. They could train a hound not to suck the value from a slave. Yet we can't stop a man in uniform from pressing his knee into throats, punching the beauty out of faces, firing bullets into craniums in front of small children, and basically destroying any small speck of value that could be left in the bodies of the young, emancipated, citizenship-wielding, equal, and desegregated Black lives that matter, just as much as the white or the blue. I guess we've stopped training our hounds. Or maybe we just need to retrain their snouts. They might be following the wrong scent. Don't know what they're looking for. Don't know they ain't still catching runaways. Don't know yet that we've discovered value outside of the nimble cotton-picking fingers. I think we should retrain our hounds. But ain't it hard to teach an old dog new tricks? I mean, after all, the one that got Philando Castile was 29. And that's a whole lot in dog years. Thank you. You guys have been a great audience. Actually, do I have time for like one really short one? One really short one? Okay. This is really short. There have been a lot of different theories on how the world is going to end because of some man-made catastrophe, like nukes or climate change or coronavirus. But personally, I don't like the sound of those. I think they're all too cliche. I think if I had to write the end of the world, I'd have a curious Black child running their thumb across the horizon until they found the edge of a smooth strip of tape. And they start scraping at it with their nail until it peeled away. And there'd be nothing holding the sky to the earth anymore. And the world would just peel back like the top of a convertible. No flames, no sickness, nothing nefarious, just a collapse. Thank you. You guys have been awesome.
Raja, Belle, Freeman, everybody, thank you so much for sharing.
Happy Juneteenth.
Thank you so much for sharing those insightful and impactful words. Make some noise again for Raja, everyone.